Alright, I want to start this video off by saying everything I say in this video is entirely opinion, none of it is fact. It's all speculation, and while I did a lot of research and found a lot of facts, this video as a whole is not a fact, so don't sue me, okay? Alright, let's get into it. So Instagram hosts many businesses, both legitimate and fraudulent. And with the rise of Instagram, we've seen so many online scams. And the most recent scam has been the ambassador scam. And this scam looks surprisingly similar to a pyramid scheme. And well, that's because it is. Now you may be aware of this ambassador scam if you're on Instagram, if your Instagram is public, mainly if you're a college student because it appears to target our age people. And while most of us kind of know it's a scam, I really haven't seen anyone break it down, do the research, and determine whether or not this is a scam and to the full extent that it goes. So I did that. I sat down, I did more research than I do in all my classes combined, and now we're gonna break down this scam together. And we'll even posit a theory as to a potential conspiracy involving these scams. Before we get into that conspiracy, let's check out the scam. I think most of us know these scams when we see them, but if you have fallen for one of these scams, I don't fault you because they've gotten really good. They've bought in hundreds of thousands of followers to improve the reputation of these accounts. They've created multiple shell accounts to disguise the true identity of the business, and they've really found some deceptive and creative ways to scam you. And it annoys me because just clicking on the tagged photo section of these scam accounts, you can see how many people have fallen for this. So many people with 500 followers now consider themselves brand ambassadors for these accounts because they've fallen for these scams. And guys, let me just get real with you for a second. If you have 500 followers, there's zero chance that any legitimate company is gonna wanna do a brand collaboration with you, at least in the way that they're suggesting. So I'm not trying to insult you in any way. Just the numbers don't add up. But let's see how they perform this scam. And to do that, we have to rewind a bit. There I was scrolling through Instagram when all of my dreams came true. Not really. Let me explain. Everybody and their mother nowadays wants to be a brand ambassador or influencer of some kind. And I'm sure if you've spent any amount of time on Instagram, you have received at least a few messages or comments on your posts from an account saying how cool your feed is and that they would love to do a collaboration with you and for you to message their main account to do so. Now, maybe you've been enticed by this and you checked out the main account because there's nothing inherently wrong with this. In fact, take this a few steps further and it's actually considered multi-level marketing, which again, there's a fine line between that and a pyramid scheme. But you found yourself on the main account and now you're there, right? You message the main account, you say, hey, I heard you guys want to do a collaboration, what's that about? At that point, you'll be offered a 50% discount code on your first purchases, then given a 20 or 30% discount code for your friends to use after you promote it on your page. Then you'll be promised a commission based on the purchases that your friends make. And again, there's nothing inherently wrong with this part of it. This is actually a very common structure of a brand ambassador deal. We're getting to the scam. So you say, oh, 50% off, I'd rather get the products for free, but let me at least check them out because maybe they're super cheap, maybe they're really good quality, maybe I'm actually getting a really good deal with 50% off. But then you check out the websites of these pages and you see the exorbitant cost of these items. $100 for a t-shirt, $150 for a ring, $200 for a sweatshirt. Again, this itself isn't the bad thing because maybe they're designer items and you are getting a 50% discount code. So maybe it's actually a steal and that's where you're correct. But it's the company that's stealing from you. Good job, Luke. That was a good joke. Thanks. High five. So these items, when we reverse search them on Google, and you can do this by right-clicking the image and then press search Google for image, and it'll search all of Google for where that exact same image appears, and usually it'll link you to where that product originates from. So you reverse search the $100 t-shirt and you see that these items can be found on Amazon, Alibaba, AliExpress, Lantret, and many other sites that are very similar. And most of these suppliers are actually drop shipping sites. And the products are really worth a few dollars. To make things worse, and this is one of the parts that pisses me off the most, The way that we found this out is because the companies were just lazy and didn't even want to purchase their own drop shipping items and then take their own product photos of them for their website. Instead, they're using the stock photos that the drop shipping companies are supplying on their websites, which allows us to reverse search these images. And at that point, it's just lazy. If you're going to scam someone, at least put a little effort into it. So at this point, you've established that these products are not worth anywhere near what they're charging you for them. Even with your 50% off ambassador code, you're still getting ripped off astronomically. Now, there's a correct way to operate an e-commerce business through drop shipping. Tons of people do it all the time, and all it is you're just cutting out the middleman and you're supplying the items through drop shipping. But at least you can do that legitimately without straight off ripping people off. And just so it's crystal clear that this thing's a ripoff, most companies operate on a 25 to 35% profit margin. For retail companies, the profit margin is as high as 45%. So if they bought a shirt from a supplier for $20, they would expect to sell that item for around $29, or at the very least get $9 in profit from that item. But these Instagram scammers are buying, for example, a bracelet for $10, then flipping that to sell it for $100. I don't even have to do the math on that profit margin because you know how high that is. It's just so sad that a lot of people don't actually realize how cheap the items that they're getting for this brand ambassadorship are. And just that allure of becoming an almighty ambassador caused you to buy ludicrously priced items. Then market that item on your own account for free for that company. Not only are they getting your money from the initial sale, but then they're getting free marketing from you after that. And a lot of the times they'll even offer to post your photos with the items on their own accounts for the brands. And you might think, wow, these guys have hundreds of thousands of followers. Just the exposure of getting in front of this many people is enough of an incentive to get on this ambassador program. But again, that's where another part of the scam comes in. They've bought thousands of fake followers for these accounts. Some of these scam accounts even have as high as 300,000 followers. But they're all fake, they're all bought, and a simple look at the engagement on these posts shows you that they're fake. These accounts with 300,000 followers will post a photo and get 100 likes on it, or 20 likes on it. That's how you know that all those followers were purchased and not gained legitimately. So now that you've been made aware of the scam, let's get into the conspiracy. My investigative work started with me writing down every single account that commented on one of my posts about a collaboration. And there were about 30 different accounts with 30 different names, all directing me to a bunch of different main accounts. So once we had this list of 30, then I figured out what main account they were all directing me to. And there were a few big ones that stood out. So I whittled the list down to about 8 main accounts that these 30 were directing me to. So for example, one of the main accounts was named Brute Impact Fashion. There were 10 different smaller accounts with kind of similar names, some that just had nothing to do with it, that said, hey, message us at our main account and tell them we sent you for a collaboration. So once I had the main account of all these individual companies, I started doing research on each one of them individually. So I went down my list, reverse searched a few of the products on each one of the websites, and made a note of the ones that seemed fishy. Okay, so I was narrowing down my research. We had passed the initial inspection of each page, and we had kind of ranked the fishier ones at the top. So I started with Brute Impact Fashion because these guys have been pestering my Instagram account to no end. At least half of the accounts, the spam accounts that were messaging me to check out this account for a collab, were all directing me to Brute Impact Fashion. So I'm like, all right, fine, I'll check you guys out. Let's see what you got. So obviously the products on this page were drop shipping items. They were selling clothing for $100, $150, and they were really worth $10 to $20, even less than that in some cases. So I did a little more digging into these accounts because I needed to know more. So I did what no one ever does. I read the terms of service. Yeah, front to back, whole thing. No pictures. So I read the terms of service, scrolled down to the liability section where companies actually have to disclose the corporation or LLC of the company for liability reasons so that they're protected in the event of a lawsuit and they know who's responsible for what. So in the liability, I saw that Brute Impact Fashion is actually a subsidiary of an LLC called Lasting Impact LLC. Now remember that name because it's going to come into effect later. Okay, so I checked out another account, and this one was called Shop Urban Ice. Again, read the terms of service, scrolled down to liability, and guess what Urban Ice is a subsidiary of? Lasting Impact LLC. Crazy coincidence, I know, right? But wait, there's more. I checked out a third company, and again, a whole nother website, a whole different account, a whole different group of accounts that had messaged me, and this one was called Shop Valerio. And guess what? This was also a subsidiary of Lasting Impact LLC. I mean, what the heck is happening right now? I don't even know. I honestly felt like I was in National Treasure and these clues were just being thrown at my feet. Like, how is this happening? There is just a breadcrumb trail leading back to Lasting Impact LLC. So, I decided to look into them. So I searched the web for Lasting Impact LLC and saw that there was a job listing for them by a man whose name I will disguise for, I guess, legal reasons. So let's call him Steve. Steve placed an ad on LinkedIn for an e-commerce project manager at Lasting Impact LLC. So at least this ad gave us some information that we had the right people, we knew who Lasting Impact LLC was, and we at least had the name of someone who worked there who was at least high enough to post an advertisement for that company. So I did an even deeper dig and tried to find out who registered Lasting Impact LLC, because as a company, you have to register as an LLC. So guess who registered Lasting Impact as an LLC? Our guy Steve. Yep, same name as the person who put out the ad. So Steve is the owner of Lasting Impact LLC. So now I wanted to check out his Instagram to see if we could get a little more information about Steve, you know? Figure out what he likes, whether he has a dog or cat. His LinkedIn profile picture served very well to identify him on Instagram. So we found his Instagram account. So looking at Steve's Instagram, we see he has about 7,000 followers. Okay, this guy's got some level of recognition. Maybe he's got, a substantial following from these companies. Is somewhat legitimate, I guess, right? But no, check out his post and he's got like 10 likes. And this was the funniest thing to me. And again, I'll explain why, but I need to set it up first. So Steve set up this LLC to remove himself in some way from these scam companies, so there wouldn't be a direct line back to him. Then he created a bunch of shell accounts, so fake accounts that don't do any sort of business, but are just in place to promote those scam accounts on Instagram. So hundreds of smaller shell accounts to direct traffic towards those main accounts. Again, removing himself even further from the scam. And you do this so that if one of those smaller accounts gets blocked in some way, maybe someone sees it and like, oh, this is a scam, let me block it. They're not actually blocking the main account. So any number of these other smaller accounts can still convince them to check out the main scam account and potentially fall for the scam. It pains me to say, but that part of it is actually pretty smart. Anyway, he did all of this so there wouldn't be a straight line back to Steve. It wouldn't be Steve selling these products on his Instagram, because then everyone would know it was Steve and no one would trust him, right? A few people would get scammed. They would make everyone aware, okay, Steve's a scammer, no one fall for his tricks, and no one would buy from him again. But all of this removes him from the account. So if one of them gets found out, if people stop buying from one, there's so many levels that he can just implement a new account and go in another direction, and no one knows who Steve is, except I do. But the funny thing is, if he wanted anonymity, what is that word? Anonymity. If he wanted to remain anonymous, he shouldn't have used the same service that he uses for these fake accounts on his own Instagram. Like, he bought 7,000 fake followers for his own Instagram for his ego, vanity, for some reason, and that, again, gave us a line back to him to find out who he was. Okay, so the conspiracy is, out of the 8 accounts that I narrowed it down to, at least 3 were owned by Lasting Impact LLC, which means at least 3 of them were owned by Steve. And those were only the ones that had messaged me. I'm one person, and somehow out of those accounts, 3 of them belong to Steve. What the heck is Lasting Impact LLC, and why do they own so many of these scam accounts? And what is Steve doing with his life? I'm curious to know how many more accounts are owned by Lasting Impact LLC, and specifically owned by Steve, which are operating the same scam and selling way overpriced items and tricking people into buying them even though they're worth a few dollars. Perhaps these companies, and again, speculation alert, my own opinion, perhaps these companies were set up to act as shell corporations for any number of illegal activity and or money laundering or something of that nature, because at the very least, it's incredibly shady. Anyway, please do not fall for this scam. If you get an offer for a collaboration or an ambassadorship, they're not inherently bad, but do some research, check out the company, at least make sure they're not owned by Steve, because that'll cross out some level of fishiness, of fishery. I'm making this video to make you aware of them, specifically college-age students. Luckily, the majority of my demographic that watches my channel is college-age students, so while this video isn't something that I normally make, I'm speaking directly to you as my viewers. Don't fall for the scam. It's all across Instagram, and if you see it, report it to someone, report it to me, and I'll look into it. If you don't want to look into it, just tag me on the comment, and I will look into it for you and tell you if it's a scam, alright? That's my promise to you. That's not a promise because I don't know if I can get to all of them, but just at least make someone aware of them, make yourself aware of them, and please don't fall for these scams, okay? I honestly didn't think I'd be going all Shane Dawson conspiracy on you today, but as I was doing my research and just developing facts, these theories just started formulating in my head, and I'm like, okay, at least let me put them together and see if we can make a bigger conspiracy. Okay guys, if you know someone that's fallen for the scam or is likely to fall for the scam because they fall for things easily, maybe they're gullible, share this video with them. If you specifically enjoyed it and maybe it stopped you from getting scammed, in that case, you are allowed to hit the like button. If you want to help me out even further, feel free to subscribe. It's completely free. It doesn't cost you anything. It's low commitment. It's a win-win for everyone, and you can always unsubscribe later if you change your mind. All right? We've got that out of the way. Anyway, guys, I hope to see you guys soon. Hopefully sooner than my last hiatus. I know I took some time off, but most of the time I took off was to work on some bigger picture projects, which I will share with you once they become available to do so. So stay tuned for some good content coming in the future, and I will see you guys in the next one. Happy Halloween. I hope you like the spooky lights in the background and the slightly spooky video. See you guys later. Peace.